2022. Can I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Kurtz.
Here.
Mr. Strollo, not here. Mr. Natale, I'm here. Mr. Mercado's absent. Mr. Bowman.
Here.
Mr. Dawson. Mr. Carderas. Mr. Selmont.
Here.
Mr. Tedisco.
Here.
Ms. Blake.
Here.
Ms. Downs.
Here.
Mr. Hilsinger. We have a quorum.
Okay, will the commission and public please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first order of business tonight, we are going to do 1, 2, and 3 all together. Can we hear the call for that, please? And if anyone is here for the continuation of the Onofrio, we are not going to hear anything on that tonight. So just letting you know.
Application for special permit on behalf of TriStar Development LLC, Miller Napolitano Wolf LLC, applicant East Point LLC, owner.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, I'm going to recuse myself.
Okay.
Applicant was requesting approval of interchange special development project for multifamily residential located on Highland Avenue adjacent to 1963 Highland Avenue. Assessors map 3, lot 51, and a small portion of map 4, lot 6, zoned in the ICSDD. Application for special permit on behalf of TriStar Development LLC, Miller Napolitano Wolf LLC, applicant East Point LLC, owner. Applicant is requesting special permit pursuant to section 40 of the zoning regulations for multifamily residential located on Highland Avenue, adjacent to 1963 Highland Avenue, assessors map 3, lot 51, and a small portion of map 4, lot 6 in the interchange special development district. An application for earth removal, filling, or regrading permit on behalf of TriStar Development LLC, Miller Napolitano Wolf LLC, applicant East Point LLC, owner. Applicant is requesting permit pursuant to section 25 of the zoning regulations for earth removal, filling, or regrading for property located at Highland Avenue, adjacent to 1963 Highland Avenue, assessors map 3, lot 51, and a small portion of map 4, lot 6 in the interchange special development district.
Thank you. And representing the applicant tonight?
I can't see Mr. Tedesco. For the record, my name is Anthony Fazzone. I'm an attorney here in Cheshire with the firm of Fazzone, Ryan and Ricciuti, representing the applicant. And for clarity, the applicant is East Point LLC, and the property owners are TriStar and Miller Napolitano. This is an application regarding Lot 3 in Stonebridge Crossing. Stonebridge Crossing is a 7-lot subdivision on the northern end of Cheshire at the intersection of 691 and Highland Avenue. Historically, there are some new members. Historically, this property received a zone change to interchange special development district. And as part of that approval, we received a special development plan, which is on the board. This is Highland Avenue here in 691. Lot 3 is right here. The subdivision proposes a new town road from Highland Avenue to a cul-de-sac at this point. And as part of the special development plan, Lot 3 was designated to be multifamily residential. And that is actually shown and as part of the special development plan. any development within the special development district, i.e. the subdivision, has to come before you for an interchange special development project. And that is what the application before you is this evening. And just for the record, the application is pursuant to 45B5 of the regulation through 45B.8 of the zoning regulations. And again, as part of the zone change to interchange special development district, the commission approved a set of special regulations which apply to all of the projects within the zone. With that background, I'm going to call on Darren Overton to go through the site plan with the specifics of Lot 3.
Good evening. For the record, Darren Overton from SLR Consulting, a licensed professional engineer in the state of Connecticut. Here on behalf of the applicant. I'm going to go over some of the site plan features and some of the design we went through in putting this project together. After me, Ray Sullivan, the architect, will be presenting the architecture. So I'll go over the site plans and some of the existing conditions to start with. So in front of you is, actually I'll start from this side, is an existing conditions site plan. Some of you are familiar with this. This is the one we used back in 2019 when we started the re-subdivision process on this property. So for orientation, north is straight up on this map. So north of us is the Rivercrest development, specifically north of Lot 3, which is located in this existing area here, is the 10 Mile River, which is highlighted in blue. We also have some wetlands in the yellow that were associated, and we've been before the Wetlands Commission to receive a wetland permit for the project. Also in the yellow and pink lines as part of the FEMA 100-year floodplain mapping that runs through the site. East of us is Route 10, and you'll see there's an access drive that's proposed to come into Lot 3. South is 691, and over here to the west is Dickerman Road. And some open space area associated with the development. So the lot itself, I'll flip this around, and this is an overlay of the re-subdivision that was approved, which establishes the access to what is Lot 3. Lot 3 is a 30-acre lot. It's located here. It's outlined in the yellow on this plan. And you can see that it encompasses a good portion of some of the former staging area that was used for construction of 691. There's also the 10 Mile River runs through it and a good portion of the wetlands and floodplain. And then north of us, this is the open space parcel I was referring to. So then to the east is Lot 2 and Lot 4. And then there's a cul-de-sac roadway. It's planned to be a town road that's currently under construction. That comes out to the interchange with the westbound 691 off-ramp. And there's proposed signal improvements and et cetera that are proposed as part of that. So the existing area, development area here is off the end of the cul-de-sac. And you can see there's still some disturbance out there from prior activities. You can see when you're evident on the site, there aren't many mature trees that are in that open area. There's also some historic ATV activity that's gone on out there. It's pretty much ceased at this point. The topography sloping generally in a north and westerly direction. Essentially all of this property in one way or another drains to the 10 Mile River. The vegetation on site in the development area is all kind of a scrub shrub and invasive type of autumn olive, which will be cleared as part of the development. You'll see there is a perimeter along the wetlands and along the river where there is some mature forest. There's actually a nice stand of mature pine trees here. Most of that border, that buffer to the 10 Mile River will be preserved as part of the project. The site is generally gently sloping. The low point, which drops down to the 10 Mile River right near what is the Stone Arch Culvert that conveys the 10 Mile River under the former, what's called the Great Fill, which was part of the Stark Farmington Canal that ran over the 10 Mile River and proceeded to the north. So the 10 Mile River drains through that in a north and easterly direction. So there's a low point there about elevation 124, and then the high point is in the southeast corner here. That rises up to an elevation of about 160. So there's not a lot of grade change, even though this is a fairly large parcel. So I'll go through some of the zoning now. I'll go over what is a kind of an overall same view, but showing the proposed development for Lot 3. So you can see on the plan here, we have the proposed development area. We also have an area highlighted in orange, which is a conservation restriction that's proposed for the property. And then what I've highlighted in the red is actually the open space that was preserved as part of the re-subdivision of the property. So what we're proposing is a multifamily residential development. It's in this interchange special development district. So we're proposing 9 buildings. So the 300 units in 9 buildings. And then there's a clubhouse also located kind of centrally in the northern part of the site. The property itself for the development of Lot 3, it's not in an aquifer protection zone. It's not in a public water supply watershed. It's all within the 10 Mile River watershed that drains to the Quinnipiac River. We have applied for an earth removal and regrading permit as part of the project, and we did request one waiver that was part of that application, and that is a waiver of the 5-acre restriction that's in there. It's recommended that you disturb less than 5 acres as part of the development. As you can see with the buildings and roadways and everything close together, the grading is tightly tied from one building to another. So it's difficult to develop a project like this without disturbing less than 5 acres. You also have infrastructure coming through the property in developing the stormwater management through the site, as well as the water and sewer utilities coming through. With all of that infrastructure tied in and needing to be developed in the early stages of the project, there's a need to disturb more than 5 acres in order to develop this in an orderly manner. We don't propose a phasing plan, but there is a kind of a phased plan of development. They plan to start with the infrastructure to serve the project, meaning the storm drainage discharges, the sewer and water infrastructure, build the clubhouse and the first apartment building. And then once that's up, they'll proceed with one apartment building at a time until they finish the project. So while there is a phased approach to the development, there is not necessarily a phasing plan that's proposed as part of this. So of the 9 buildings and the 300 apartments, the buildings are broken up into 24-unit buildings, 36-unit buildings, and 48-unit buildings. It's actually one of those larger buildings. There's 105 single-bedroom units, 150 two-bedroom units, and 15 three-bedroom units proposed. So that's kind of the unit mix. And Ray will talk about those units and how they're laid out more in his presentation. One clubhouse with a pool and other amenities. There's planned to be an outdoor barbecue area, fire pits. We have 4 EV charging stations that are proposed at the clubhouse. And then in the northeast corner here, we have an area off the end of one of the little internal cul-de-sacs planned to be a fenced-in dog park. The parking that's proposed for the site follows the regulations, and that there's 1.5 spaces required per 1-bedroom unit, 1.75 per 2-bedroom unit, 2 spaces per 3-bedroom unit. So there's a requirement of 510 spaces. In order to meet the zoning regulations, we have 533 proposed. And then there's a desire for some of the residents to have garage spaces. So there are garages dispersed around the site to create 152 garage spaces. So 152 of those parking spaces will be enclosed in garages. As I mentioned, there's a conservation restriction. That conservation restriction in yellow here represents about 13.8 acres. And then there's in red, the open space that's preserved, that is 21.6 acres. So there's been about 35 acres of natural area that's being preserved as part of this project, part of a 107-acre total development. And you can see all of that follows the 10 Mile River. I've been working on this project going back to 2006 and going back to our initial meetings with DEEP for the prior project, which required higher level permits. there's a very strong message from them saying to preserve the corridor along the 10 Mile River. And we've stuck to that throughout the design of the project. And you can see a tremendous amount of area that's being saved in its natural state as part of the project.
Ask a question quick. Just Darren.
Yes.
I'm trying to get the division on the buildings. There's 9 buildings. There's 300 units. It seems that a couple of buildings are all the same. Is there like 8 that are same size and 1 or 2 smaller? How do you get that number? Like how many units are per the big buildings? And I'm sorry to disturb your presentation, but it's really bugging me because I can't do the math.
So there's 5 36-unit buildings. There's 6.
2.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
The architect's gonna come up afterwards too. That might be a question.
Okay, I'm just trying to.
536, 3 24-unit buildings, and 148.
5, so one's a 48. So
I hope
that's-
that adds up to 300.
Yeah. But the 48 one, is that a 4-story building then?
Yes, that'll
Okay,
have an
so that's
elevator.
the only 4-story building?
Yes.
The rest are 3? Okay. I'm sorry to keep on going.
No worries. No,
It was bugging me. Like I'm looking at it, like trying to do the 300. It's making me crazy.
happy to answer the question while we're going through it.
Okay. Thank you.
So we have a proposed access road coming out to the new cul-de-sac, which is planned to be a town road, which is Stonebridge Court. Like I mentioned, that's under construction. We're proposing 24-foot wide roadways throughout the development. You can see there's a series of loop roads, so there's multiple access to essentially all of the buildings except for the one over here, which ends in a cul-de-sac. All the rest of them have looped roadways serving them. We also have trash, recycling, and there's a maintenance building down here in the southeast corner of the property, kind of up against the highway and lot 2. The property is proposed to be served by public water and sewer, and there are mains that are under construction that run through the site. So the sewer and water infrastructure comes through the site out to serve the cul-de-sac and other parts of the project. Sewer connects over to the pump station, which is the pump station parcel here over on Dickerman Road, which has been constructed and is near operation. We've proposed landscaping on here. You see that kind of the trees. I'll flip to a kind of a larger blow up of this, but we have proposed a number of shade trees and ornamental trees on the project. So this next page is just kind of a blow up of the development area itself. So we have for trees, red maple, river birch, hornbeam, dogwood, flowering cherry, and zelkover. So it's a mix of shade trees and flowering trees. There's going to be, mowed manicured lawn around the area of the units. It kind of changes over to a meadow mix around the perimeter of the site where it's going to blend in, particularly on the north and west side where it's going to blend in with the mature wooded area. The front of each of the units will be landscaped with kind of a colorful blend, like a streetscape type of look. There, like I mentioned, there's 13.85 acres of conservation easement along the 10 Mile River. And what's interesting is if you look at our E&S control plan, it's almost about the same area that we're disturbing for this development. So the disturbed area of the site is about 13.8 acres, and we're preserving 13.8 acres of open space in that conservation easement. So you can see how with a dense type with these larger buildings, you're able to preserve a lot more open space and have a more compact development area. We have a pros monument sign, which is going to be located out on the front here near Building 9000 in the cul-de-sac. And there will also be some internal wayfinding signs. Once we've approved all the building and unit numbers through the town staff and also the fire department, the wayfinding signs will be developed as part of this. All of the other utilities that are going to serve this, gas, power, and communications, will be extended in the cul-de-sac coming into the site. So I'll just quickly go over a few remaining items. We did submit Dave Sullivan, who's been the traffic engineer for the project since we started putting together the master plan on this. Dave did submit a traffic letter that provides a summary of the proposed development as it ties in with the overall development. So the overall development did receive a OSTA approval back in April of this year. And we've submitted for the encroachment permit with the district for the proposed mitigation improvements out on Route 10, which includes some signal improvements, some lane widening, restriping. There's a number of improvements that were approved as part of the OSTA approval. So that approval included a mixed-use type of development with gas station, retail, restaurant, medical offices, 150-room hotel, and then 530 residential units, which included the 300 here and 1,875 parking spaces. The mitigation proposed, as I mentioned, roadway widening, repaving, restriping, signal timing, and then some larger scale signal improvements, particularly for the access to Lot 5. Dave did include a brief summary of crash data, which has not changed much since the original report was put together and submitted to OSTA. He also developed some site-generated traffic, and there's a table on page 3 of that letter that he submitted, which shows the estimates from the ITE document. What's interesting is the 300 units only generates about 8 to 9% of the traffic that was planned for the mixed-use development on the east side, which would be accessed by Route 10. He also goes through all in more detail the mitigated offsite improvements, which I'm not going to go through at this point. But the conclusion is, if you go to the last page of the letter, basically that the Stonebridge Crossing has received master plan approval and OSTA approval. The proposed residential development is consistent with both approvals. 300 units were proposed on Lot 3 in the approvals, and 300 units are being proposed in this application. Furthermore, access will be unchanged, and consequently, the mitigation package proposed will be unchanged. So essentially, what that shows is we've followed the master plan. We follow through. The current developer is basically moving forward with the final details and plans for what we had planned all along, which was 300 apartments on what is Lot 3 of the overall development. Stormwater management, I'm not going to go into it in detail. I think most of you are familiar with what we've done on this site. We did a hydrologic analysis, which was prepared for the change in development coverage from the existing conditions to what's proposed. We have a pipe and catch basin drainage system designed for a 10-year storm. And then we designed the trunk lines to be able to handle up to a 100-year design flow. And there's a reason for that. There's one water quality basin that's proposed in a gradually sloping area near the river. So that's the darker blue area that's shown on the development plan. That overflows through a riprap swale down along the bank and into the 10-mile river. Fairly simple design. The reason why we've designed the trunk line to handle a 100-year storm is because we're not proposing detention on this project. Back in July 18th of 2019, we submitted a hydrologic study that looked at the 10-mile river in relation to the Quinnipiac River. And what it showed was that this site, it does not make sense to detain on this site because of the timing of the peak flows for the 100-year storm through the site. So we've provided for water quality management per the deep stormwater manual, and we have provided for safe conveyance of the 100-year storm through the site. While since we do have very high permeable soils on site, that basin will allow for quite a bit of infiltration with a large bottom area. It's not planned, it's only 4 to 6 feet deep. We do propose for water quality sumps in the catch basins. We have a hydrodynamic separator that's proposed prior to the discharge. And this is an earthen basin with a, which has that broad overflow to the 10-mile river. So we also included a erosion sediment control plan. Again, since this site is flat, there isn't much risk with erosion, even though the soils are sandy in nature and there isn't a lot of runoff that's generated. So as I mentioned, we have 13.8 acres of disturbance. There will be a deep construction stormwater general permit that's required for this, and we are nearly to the point where we can apply for that. The permit is filled out. We need one more thing to come through for us, and then we'll be submitting that to the DEEP for approval. We have perimeter silt fence controls, also inlet protection for the catch basins. We have temporary berms and swales and 4 temporary sediment traps that were proposed as part of that plan. And then with that permanent stormwater basin is not proposed to be used as part of the erosion controls. And then we have a couple of areas along the northern and western perimeter. We have 2-to-1 slopes that tie in to the existing along the tree line. We have some fabric that's proposed on those steeper slopes to immediately protect it from erosion. So if there are any further questions regarding the site plan, be happy to try and take them now or could answer them later. Yes.
Where's the bike path in relate, just to orient myself, like on the, would that be the west
So the
side?
canal rails to trails
Yeah,
bike path, it's just off our map here. So Dickerman Road is here. There's a narrow piece of private property in between. And basically the bike trail is right here, just to the west of us.
just curious. Thank you.
Yeah, it's just off of the map.
Charlie. When will the second access road for the north entrance be built? 'Cause I know that in the SLR traffic study, it does indicate that they're going to have ingress and egress from both. So when is that going to be built before these are done or after or while they're being done?
It'll likely be done after. That road does provide for a second access into the cul-de-sac, but it mainly serves what is planned to be the retail development on Lot 5. So it really depends on the timing, Lot 5.
Gotcha. So the traffic studies are planning for the south entrance to be the main entrance for the 300 units.
Yes.
Thanks.
So if there's nothing further from me, I'd like to have Ray Sullivan come up and present the architecture.
That's not not yet. All we're looking at is off the state traffic authority.
No, so he's doing it in phases. Because I thought when they testified, they were going to do that first.
I didn't get you anything.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Ray Sullivan of the Sullivan Architectural Group. We're located at 155 Broad Street in Milford. Yeah, I'm working on this.
Mr. Chair, just for clarification, so Marilyn's going to be taking minutes. Mr. Sterolo joined right at the beginning of the public hearing. Thank you.
So to follow up on the overview Darren gave, there are 9 residential buildings. 8 of the residential buildings are 3-story walk-ups. 3 of them have 24 units, 5 of them have 36 units. And then there's 1 4-story building, which is building number 5. So that's got 4 and it's serviced by an elevator. It's the only elevator in the property. So the basic building composition is a group of 4 units around a stairwell. So if we look at this 24-unit building, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 units around the stairwell. Then there's a firewall, and then the same thing happens again. So technically, under the building code, it's actually 2 buildings, but in terms of architecture, it's 1 building. So that there are 8 units on that floor, there are 3 floors, there are 24 units, in that building. The same thing applies for the 5 36-unit buildings. So in that case, we have that same module of 4 units surrounding a staircase, a firewall separating it from the next building, 4 units surrounded by a staircase, a firewall, then another 4 units. So in this particular building, we've got 12 units on a floor in total and 36 in total throughout the building. So essentially, they're all 3-story walk-ups and 4 units off of every staircase.
On the 4-floor unit that has 48 units in it,
Yes.
what is the total square footage of the whole building, all 4 floors?
The square footage is approximately 64,000 square feet,
That's including all 4 floors?
all 4 floors.
Okay, thank you.
So this is the footprint of the 4-story, 48-unit building. So Here, it functions just like a regular apartment building where the other buildings are kind of a little bit desegregated into these smaller modular pieces that go together. This is one big apartment building. So, you walk into a main lobby, there's an elevator, there's a common hallway, there are stairs at each end. There are 12 units on that floor, and there are 4 such floors, and giving us, 48 units. So the question was asked, I did check my math, that does add up to 30 units. 300 units, just in case.
Yeah, no, I got it. I couldn't see the numbers on this other one,
Okay.
and I read it again.
So also described was the clubhouse.
On the units, they're all about 1,300 square feet, even in all the different buildings? Is there like an average, or is it a set style for every unit?
So,
for
yeah,
square
I'll give you
footage?
so I'll jump to the breakdown now. So there are 32 studio units. An average size of the studio is 605 square feet.
So there's
there-
32 studios, and in what buildings are those?
They're spread out between actually they're spread out between all the buildings.
Okay. So they're not specific to one specific building.
Right. So I'm giving you the breakdown for the
And
300
I'm just asking
units.
that for parking reasons. So if it's a studio, it's basically a 1-bedroom apartment.
Yes.
Okay. So like if it's the other ones are 2 bedrooms, so there's no specific unit that has just 1-bedroom apartments in it.
No, they're all dispersed because,
Okay.
the variety of units is important because there's a variety of tenants and their needs. So, we try stay away from putting, all 1-bedrooms in one building or all 2s in another. They're all kind of relatively equally dispersed. So of the 300, 32 are studios with a typical size of 605 square feet. 45 of them are 1-bedrooms with a typical size of approximately 750 square feet. 28 of them are 1-bedrooms with a den. That average size is approximately 880 square feet. There are 119 2-bedrooms. A typical size there is 1,135 square feet. There are 2 bedrooms with dens. There are 30 of those. The typical size is 1,265 square feet. And there are 32 3-bedrooms. And the typical size for that 3-bedroom is approximately 1,425 square feet. If you took the net average of the 300 units, you'd be about 1,050 square feet. So, I've designed thousands of units. This is the largest average net size. A lot of times when you see some of these 4-story buildings, 4 stories over parking, a lot of times the net average size is 870 square feet.
The 32 studios were how many square feet? I know the next one was
605.
605. Now, what about, is there handicapped apartments on the first floor? Are those?
So in the of the 8 buildings that are walk-ups,
Yep.
all first floor units are what we call ADA adaptable. That
Yeah.
means they're a combination of A's and B's. In the 4-story 48 unit complex, every single unit in that complex, in that building, is ADA adaptable. And so what happens is that 10% of all the units will be what we call a type A. So a type A adaptable unit has a slightly higher level of accessibility,
Mhm.
particularly shows up in the kitchens, a little bit in the baths.
Bigger
And
door.
yeah. So you need access throughout the entire apartment for all the units. So if a person, God forbid, in a wheelchair, he can get in and maneuver, all rooms in the floor. Everything that happens that could happen later, for instance, grab bars don't go in, but the blocking for the grab bar does go in, so that somebody needs it, all they have to do is screw it into the wall.
Okay.
There are cases in the type A unit, which has the slightly higher level of accessibility. Every kitchen counter in the country is, in every home is 36 inches high. In the type A kitchens, that sink has to be 34 inches high. And you need the knee space so you can pull in underneath it. And so that sink ends up being 6 to 7 inches deep. That's how deep it ends
And
up.
that's 30 units have that.
30 units will have that, yes. It also has a workspace next to it. And so the adaptability comes is that you could walk into that unit, it looks like just every other unit, but those cabinets actually pull out. And the adaptability has to be such that turning it from a regular unit into a handicap unit is extremely easy. You pull out the cabinet, you put it in the basement, you screw the grab bars onto the wall, you may change a faucet, but everything's set up to become a handicap unit. So everyone is adaptable and everyone has the path of travel through the unit.
I have another architectural question.
Okay.
I've been looking at the layout and I can't figure out when you walk outside on the deck, there's a square box. What is that? Is that for the water heater or what is, there's like a
So every unit is utility wise independent. So every unit has its own kind of mechanical closet. So the HVAC unit sits in there's a larger box in the first floor that represents its terrace. Every single unit in the complex has its own balcony or terrace, depending on it's on the upper floor.
But in that
But
balcony, that's
off
what I'm
that
asking.
area is a small mechanical closet. So
Okay, thank you. 'Cause
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
another thing I was looking
Yeah.
at and I couldn't figure out the circle and the square. I'm like, what the
yeah,
hell
it's
is
a
that?
hot water heater, an
Yeah.
HVAC unit. Again, each unit is utility wise independent. So every unit has its own gas meter, its own electric meter.
And all that is in that box that's right on the patio. Or
The mechanical system is there. The meters are on the side of the building.
So what about like for water? Is there a water shut off per unit? I mean, I'm
Yeah,
sorry to get
there is.
so
There's-
technical because I have a friend that had a problem where the upper unit was leaking down into the lower unit and there's no way to shut the water off, you
Yeah.
know? So
Well,
if you're on floor 4 and you're down the bottom, you're getting a wave, you know?
Yeah, it used to be that way with that the units would stack, the water would go into the first floor and then rise up through the units.
So then they have to shut it off.
And
for
there
the guy
was
by
a one
top.
shut off valve. Now every single unit has to have its own shut off valve.
Okay.
So they'll all have that. The water is looped so that it's not like there are 300 water meters, but there'll be individual sub meters within the unit so they can monitor that. All the buildings will be sprinklered. Under the building code, it's an
Yeah.
R2 use, so every building will be sprinklered. There'll be a combination of what we call NFPA 13 and NFPA 13R systems, depending on the size of the building.
All right. Thank you.
I was just going to touch upon the clubhouse. The clubhouse is approximately 7,000 square feet. It's got a leasing area up front. It's got some Zoom rooms because, so many people are working from home and, sometimes there's a meeting and sometimes I'd actually like to go to the clubhouse, work out of the cafe there, and then maybe go in for a private call, in a Zoom room. They have a large fitness center and a yoga room, and that yoga room will actually have access to the outside. They have a recreation room where there are a lot of board games, table games, whether it's pool, ping pong, but table related, that area tends to be a little bit more active and noisy. There's a recreation room beyond that has a fireplace and a kitchenette that tends to be a little bit quieter, larger, softer seating. It's supported by a music room because a lot of times if you've got that instrument, you don't want them playing that, up in the apartment building. So there's a separate music room. There's a golf simulator room. Usually there's two. There's a covered exterior patio. There's grill stations outside. There's a fire pit, and a pool.
Excuse me, so that square box, it looks like people are sitting on, that's a fire pit, right?
Yes.
Very nice layout.
Thank you. As far as the exterior appearance is concerned, the overall architecture is traditional in nature. We've got the gable roofs, the reverse gables. We've got horizontal and vertical siding, typical double hung windows. We've got traditional decks and deck railings and decorative columns that'll all follow, a traditional, motif.
I'm sorry, but I don't want you to go too far. So the siding, is the siding gonna be a wood clapboard, or is it gonna be vinyl, or what's that?
It's going to be a vinyl.
It is. gonna be
Yes.
vinyl. Thank you.
Since Woody interrupted you, I'm going for it too. On the third and fourth floor, and there's like an attic space. Is that accessible by the unit, or is that something that is just show?
Any attic area within the buildings is just part of the roof line.
Yeah,
No-
it's not a practical attic where people are storing in it or anything.
Right.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
We try to keep the size of the attic down. So what happens is when you look at a building from here to here, that main piece of the roof is a pretty shallow roof. It's 4.5 to 5 pitch. Now,
But there's still a window in one on the sides and stuff you can see. It.
in the gables,
Yeah,
yeah, they're there for decorative purposes.
Okay, so
What
there's no like upstairs attic that you.
No, well, just to back.
There's nowhere to put the bed. There's nowhere to put the bad kids.
There's no
right?
accessible attic that the tenants will use. There's no storage up there. What happens?
Like a crawl space.
Yeah, where you put the bad kids.
What happens is that every single unit is 1 hour separated from every other unit. So the walls, the floors, the ceilings are 1 hour. The stairways are 1 hour. When you get to the 4-story building, the stairways and the elevator shaft are 2 hours because that's a little bit taller. When it comes to the attic, that attic area has to be broken up into an area that is no more than 3,000 square feet or 2 units, and then you have to draft stop. So anytime there's smoke, anything that can get through those buildings, there's a set of redundancy to kind of head all that off. So the attic is there, but it's really broken up into small pieces. I was just talking about that piece of roof here, that the main body of the roof, we're talking about the attic. We don't want this, this building that's 70 feet wide to have this giant attic and so that's got a really shallow pitch on it. It's 4.5 to 5 pitch. And so what we do is we take the ends of the building and we reverse a gable that's much steeper. So the steeper gable is more attractive looking. And so we're able to kind of keep the volume up in the attic down while still making the building, we think, aesthetically pleasing. So I guess, so we've got a 10 pitch, on those reverse gables and the roofs over the individual decks. And again, every single unit in the complex has its own deck or terrace.
But the gables add a lot to it.
They do, and we're trying to add a little bit of trim up there too. We want to break the scale down.
It's really nice with the reverse gable. It's a nice layout.
Thank you.
Really nice.
So
Are there any basements or anything, storage for the tenants and that kind of thing, or?
no, it's everything's
Slab.
everything's a slab on grade.
Okay, thank you.
This is a sketch of building number 9. So when you come in the cul-de-sac and you look to the left, that's the first building that you see. So there you see, kind of that roof line and those gables breaking down, I think the composition of that roof so that it keeps the scale, at a nice human scale. We have, in what I sent out, I sent some, there are some color sketches. Now, the problem with the color sometimes is it looks like this color on the screen, then you print it looks like another color. It's hard to get exactly. But the names on those colors are all Sherwin-Williams colors. So the main color we'd like to use is kind of a blue-gray, and then we're going to have some buildings that'll be a light gray. There will be other buildings that will have a deeper blue. Yes, that's Fairway Jeans. Yes. I don't know who makes these names up, but there's so those are all cool gray colors. There's a warm gray color, a taupe there that also blends in. So the point is, you're not going to drive in here and you're not going to see a red building, then a yellow building, and then a blue building, and then a green building. We're going to use the same color palette, and we're just going to vary it slightly throughout. So again, this is what we call scene number 1, but that's building number 9. This is actually building 6, 7, and 8. So that forms a courtyard. So almost begins to look like a college campus.
We're gonna have a big sprinkler in there like the college campuses have.
Yeah, and we're gonna have a Rathskeller somewhere, just like the college campus. And this is just a sketch of the back of the clubhouse area. So we've got the pool, we've got a covered terrace, we've got an open terrace. You know, we didn't enhance this a lot yet, but we will have these outdoor activities. We're going to have a good connection from the inside of the clubhouse out. You know, whether or not it's out of the rec room, out of the game area, or even out of the yoga studio, which we just added an overhead door to. As well as a pool. So, we've got 10 overall buildings, including a clubhouse. 8 of the buildings are 3 stories. 1 building is 4 stories. And then the clubhouse it's only 1 story, but it's got a bigger roof. You can call it a story and a half. And Darren's done a great job of kind of, dispersing those buildings throughout the site. The tallest building is all the way in the back. So you never even see the back side of that building. And, so we do have garages too. And the garages, follow a similar format. They're single story, they've got reverse gables in it, and they're going to follow the same color palette as well. So, they're smaller.
How does that work? Because there's not enough garages for all the cars. So who would the garages go with in this studio 750? Does that go up to the 14 and a quarter square feet? Then you'll get the garage. Or
I think that's above my pay grade, but I would
I'm just
say,
saying,
I think they're separate. They're there for separate leasing. So I don't think it's assigned to the unit. If somebody comes in and wants a rent
so
a
it's
unit.
not for a unit specific, or
No.
the buildings beside it. Okay.
Not everybody wants a garage.
Okay.
My name is.
Yeah, I'm gonna need you to come up here.
Sorry, for the record, my name is Bill Finger. I'm a principal in East Point LLC.
Mhm.
The garages are available to any resident, whether they're a studio, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, or 3 bedroom.
Of the 300 units, how many garages are there?
152.
Oh, there's 150 garages for 300 units.
300
But-
units.
So it's only half. Okay.
Right, and
Yep.
oftentimes some people want a garage, others don't want a garage. There's an additional charge for a garage.
Where on this map, there's 2 sets. There's 1 big one and then 1 smaller one.
There are 2 arrangements. One is just a single garage that's 22, 23 feet deep, and then there's a gang of them that are garages that are back to
There's one
back.
over here.
I want to go a little bit different question. How does garbage collection happen? I see just in the front, I see 2 dumpsters. How do you go about it? I don't live in an apartment. I don't know do you carry the garbage to the front from all these buildings? Is there separate dumpsters? Is there?
What we tend to have is what we call trash concierge. There'll be a trash contractor who will actually be going through the apartments, collecting trash in designated areas in each building and bringing them to the compactors. Of course, individuals, if they choose, they can bring their own trash to the compactors, but it's picked up in each building, each unit. I did.
But then you came back.
Oh, I'm sorry, I have to identify myself again. Bill Finger, Principal, East Point LLC. Thank you, Anthony.
So each individual building will have a, specific place where you place garbage?
Yes,
Once a week or twice a week or?
more than once a week. I don't know how many times a week. That'll depend on what we see, the generation of trash.
Same thing with recycling.
Yes. Before I leave, any other questions? That
No,
I can always identify myself
The-
again.
the-
So
the 152, and then it's the when they get a garage, they can't sublease it or anything like that.
correct,
It has to be somebody that is in the complex.
correct.
And then they have to hold it.
Every garage, every amenity opportunity is for residents only and their guests. But the garages are only for the residents.
Yeah, so they can't do repairs in it or anything like that, or,
No.
no, okay.
So I don't know if you're going to address this later. If you are, it's okay. But can you talk about the lighting plan for the project?
Again, Darren Overton from SLR Consulting. What East Point does is they use the Eversource program for lighting. So on the plans, we have dispersed lights around the site, and they're going to use the Eversource program, the Eversource lighting fixtures, and provide lighting amenities around the entire facility. So we have locations shown on the plans, and the final fixtures and contract is yet to be determined with Eversource.
Yep, saw that, but they're all going to be downward facing, nothing.
Yes.
You're not going to light up the neighborhood.
No, they're all going to be consistent with the regulations, be down-facing shielded lights.
No more shoe boxes. No more shoe boxes.
Nobody likes those. And, they don't really fit here. That's a little bit more of a commercial type of fixture. So here, matching in with the architecture, there'll be more of a colonial style of fixture and more residential looking. A little bit bound to what Eversource provides, but yeah, it'll be a residential type of fixture.
Mr. Tedesco?
The architect, so most of the buildings have just stairways and no elevators. So I guess people who can't walk upstairs really would only be able to use apartments on the first floor or perhaps in the one building with an elevator?
Ray Sullivan of the Sullivan Architectural Group. That's correct.
So if a person in one of the other buildings was on the third floor and and something happened to them and they couldn't anymore walk up the stairs, they would have to find a different place to live, I guess, right?
Yes, we can't put the elevator in the building afterwards. So yeah, they would have to.
Right. And so but any of the, I guess, before you talked about all the apartments being accessible,
What I described was all the ground floor apartments in the non-elevated buildings and all floors in the elevator buildings, they're all what we call adaptable.
so, I mean, when you're renting the apartments, I mean, would you be, I don't know how, I'm not sure how many people in a complex this size would be expected to be disabled. I mean, there may be numbers on that. There may be figures that different organizations have. Is that the case? I mean, would you expect it to be 10% of the people in a project this size needing an accessible apartment, or 15%, or is there any? are there any rules on that?
Significantly smaller.
Pardon me?
Significantly smaller.
Significantly smaller. So you would not expect with 300 apartments that you would need 30 accessible apartments. You would.
No.
And are there national standards on that? I mean, when we hear about traffic, there's always national standards of different amounts of traffic with different size developments. Are there such standards for developments such as this?
Well, there are, and so there's two scenarios. You either have a building without an elevator, and if that's the case, all ground floor units must be accessible to the handicapped. If you have an elevator, every unit in that building has to be accessible. If you built a 2 residential floors over retail, and you wanted to do walk up, you could not. You'd have to put the elevator in because there's no residential units on the ground floor. So if you're building residential units and there's no elevator, there has to be accessible units on the ground floor. And if you have an elevator, all units are adaptable.
And so I guess, I mean, are there rules, for example, the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, are there rules from the ADA that apply to projects such as this?
These are the ADA rules.
Okay, all right. That's maybe to ask the obvious, but I just for the record, now we've asked that. You also mentioned sprinklers. So are the sprinklers in the common areas? Are there sprinklers in each of the apartments, in each room?
There are sprinklers in the units as well as the common areas. And how many sprinklers there are per unit depends on the size of the building. A smaller building will have what we call an NFPA 13R system. That's more of a residential. So that allows you to have the heads are spaced further apart, because it's a small building with easy access. When you get a larger building, like the 4-story building, you have NFPA 13. And the density of the sprinkler heads in that one, is a little tighter together. But the reality is, no matter which NFPA system you're going under, the units and the common areas are sprinklered. And everything's fire protected.
Okay, thank you.
And you have to follow building code anyway, so.
Yeah. So the accessibility laws are adapted, into the international building code, and then the state building code. And the code official is actually the person who is, monitoring, that you are following those laws. That's Chapter 11 in the state code.
I have a question.
Mr. Stroll.
The 32 3-bedroom, 14 and a quarters, and the 32 bedroom, 1265 square foots, are they on, what floor are they on in the buildings? Or is it? And the reason I ask is I lived in a few apartments, and when you have, 3 bedrooms, you have kids and noise and whatever.
So I'm sorry. So which
The 32 3-bedroom, 14 and a quarter square foot, and the 32 bedroom, 1265. So
I think they're mixed on all floors. I think he said, and all different buildings
Yeah, I know,
mixed on
but-
all floors.
excuse me. You said they're all different, but are they all on individual floors? So there could be would they be, each floor is basically the same footprint, right
You
up,
have this?
yes.
right?
So
No, I know, I have that, but
I've got my unit analysis here. So that building number 5, which is the elevator building,
yes.
that has 3 bedrooms on every floor. So they're dispersed throughout. It's got
So it's got multiple 3-bedroom. So
yes.
building, the 4-story building will be the one that has the most 3-bedroom units in it?
I couldn't as an individual building, yes.
Okay. Because 32 units is not, a huge number compared to 300, it's, 10%. But I'm just wondering, I know you said they're dispersed throughout, but that's the biggest of the apartments where I would say the most children would probably be in. And I just want to know, accessibility from there for school bus and all that stuff for that building there. That's what I would want to.
Yeah. Well, so the other buildings, all the other buildings have 3 bedrooms in them as well. They but I think the larger concentration is in building 5, the 4-story building, but all others have 3s as well.
So I don't know on that, asking that, is that with the accessibility and, this big parking lot and all these vehicles and everything else, is there stages and places for kids to be picked up, or how does that even work? I mean, I can't see a school bus going up and down and around, maybe in the cul-de-sac spinning around, but how does that disperse to where kids will be picked up? Because I'm assuming there won't be a lot of kids, but the kids that are there. Go
Bill,
ahead.
Bill Finger, East Point LLC.
Thanks, Bill.
Typically in projects that we have developed in Hartford County and just general area, where the school buses pick the kids up and drop the kids off is something that is worked out with the school system. And usually it's at the front, somewhere in the front entrance of the community. So it's not typical for the school bus to be going throughout the entire community.
No, I would assume it'd be in the cul-de-sac. But that being said, is there any provision for a bus stop or something? Or the kids to stay someplace than just kind of be, standing in the road? So I would assume that it's going to be a busy intersection coming out of the cul-de-sac.
if-
but,
I don't know where it is, but if you look at the cul-de-sac.
I'm looking at SP
There is open grass areas there, so they're not going to be, the kids aren't going to be standing in the road.